Tana, welcome to another episode of the 135 Footy Show, proudly part of the WesWes network. Go check us out at the website weswesnet.com. You'll be able to find us and all the other podcasts from the network there and articles from the team as well. One of our other podcasts, the Counter Rock, and the host, Stace. Welcome in, bro. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again. Also, I haven't been on as regularly as I would like, but good to be on today with the Warriors in the playoffs as well.
Oh, mate, yeah. Warriors held on to the 8, stayed in there, and bit of forces the last time you were on, mate. You were booking tickets and all, so we'll get into that later. See if you still got those tickets. Not sure if those are the ones I saw in Trade Me. But let's get straight into it, man. It's a full episode. End of the round, heading into the finals. Let's kick off with our normal awards, bro. We'll go with your All Eyes award for the weekend.
Yeah, this is one thing I always forget to prepare for these All Eyes on Me, so I'm trying to rustle something up at the last minute. But I've just gone for a club. I've gone for the Roosters, just as a club in general. They get my All Eyes on Me. So they made the playoffs. They sort of snuck in a bit late. Now, you're thinking about their season, their highest position this whole year was only 6th. So they've really battled through a lot to try to make it. But I was, for them to get 8th, with a lot of their injuries they've had, I thought that was a good achievement. But when you also consider, in the NRLW, they're coming first as well. So they're well on path to make the playoffs in the women's competition. And in New South Wales Cup team, they made the playoffs as well. So just for the club as a whole, I think they're one of the stronger clubs in the NRL with all 3 of their top teams making it through to the playoffs so far. So all eyes on me to the Roosters. Not a fan of their club per se, but they deserve a shout.
Nice spotting. Nice call out on the Roosters there. Yeah, sliding in. I don't even know. I'm trying to look back at our predictions earlier in the year. Yeah, I think with all those misses, changes on the team, I don't know if anyone had them in their 8 early on. So nice call out there. My all eyes went to up against the Warriors, Mitch Moses. Man, just his class at this level, just seeing him shine through. Hard to watch, but his boot kicks them out of a lot of trouble. So, yeah, and where they could have gone. So, yeah, as a probably end to their season, but yeah, definitely Mitch Moses is my all eyes from the weekend. Your probably a notable mention, the Titans. Like they had a lot. They've had a rough season. And trying to avoid the spoon. So I kind of gave them an honorable mention of all eyes just for pulling that one out for Kieran and Desi to kind of keep them out of the spoon. Your Kayakele, bro.
Yeah, rustling something up again. I'm just going to go for the NRL just in general. So I heard you guys talk about this a little bit. I think it was last week, just with Mark Nawonga-Netawase. So he, in my opinion, he would be a deserved winner of the NRL Rookie of the Year. And he was outstanding again on the weekend. But just halfway through the season, they've just conspired to create this new rule to effectively rob him of the award where, he played professionally in a different code. So we're going to add that in as professional sport, and he's not actually a rookie. But they just introduced that halfway through the season, and it felt like they did that to stop him from winning the award. I don't know if they were sort of an anti-rugby union thing. They didn't want to give it to a rugby union sort of previous guy, but I just thought that was average how they just rustled that up halfway through the season, just to effectively to try to stop him from winning the award, because I think he deserves to win the NRL Rookie of the Year. And I will add, there's a lot of quality candidates out there, but just the NRL changing the rules halfway through to stop this poor dude winning something. So I thought that was pretty ordinary.
Nice, bro. I'm backing up on that point. Did Swali get it when he arrived at all? No.
I don't recall. I think he might have started the same time that Reece Walsh was there, was it, maybe?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm just wondering if it was something around that, because like you're saying, maybe against rugby union, like 2 rugby union stars at the Roosters suddenly getting that award, but maybe he didn't get it. I went with the Knights. Is sad, kicked them while they're down, but They, they really had so many chances and weren't even in the conversation of wooden spoon and kind of put themselves there. Like just disappointing. Like I think they're yeah. We'll talk about what the hopes of these teams could possibly be. But yeah, so that was probably a harsh one, but I'm going Kaiakele for the Knights. And just how they ended their season. Um, we'll jump straight into that as well. Actually, we won't do a review of last week's games, but let's go through and do a season review of the 9 teams that missed out. Some unfortunate and some just need to be better. So we'll start from where we ended with the Knights. Getting the spoon this year. A lot of high hopes. Oh yeah, I'll come to you first, bro. Your thoughts on where it went wrong for them. They're getting a lot of buys next year, but I, I, yeah, I guess they have to improve next year. Um, but is a new coach going to save them?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question. Obviously, the coach Adam O'Brien, he's decided he's moving on. I think that's probably the right call, especially after they've won the wooden spoon. But like you mentioned, I don't think they were that bad early on. But looking at how they finished, they lost their last 9 games straight. So they just really fell off a cliff towards the end there. I'm not sure if that ties in timeline wise when the coach decided he was packing it in or what, but they just things just went downhill pretty quickly for them. So they ended with the worst attack overall, which hasn't helped them. But I think that's where they lost it. And you talked about that last game for Kaiakele. Just looking at their points, they conceded on average 47 points in those last 6 games. So just they were ready for their Mad Monday celebrations pretty early on. I think getting rid of the coach is the right call. They've got some good signings, which you mentioned with Dylan Brown and all the rest of it, which I think is going to be a good pickup for them. So maybe there might be some light at the end of the tunnel. But I did see them, like I mentioned, losing 9 in a row. That's where you win the spoon. So I thought that's where it went wrong for them at the end there.
Yeah, and I can't see that. Well, I mean, they have to improve, but I mean, Dylan Brown, yeah, that combination. Yeah, I think whoever comes in needs to settle that halves comparing. Like, I think that was what suffered the most. Adam O'Brien, like 3 seasons experimenting, trying to move Ponga in there, and kind of what was it, 23 season when they kind of carried on the experiment and everyone kind of knew it wasn't working. Or maybe it was 22. Yeah,
23 it
I think
was.
whoever
You're
comes
right.
in, yeah, just sorting out their house pairing. The Titans, yeah, like you're saying, the Knights probably second worst defense attacking, but then the Titans is kind of like down in the cellar dwellers too. But they look like they're a team with heaps of points in them. Yeah, so I don't know. Everyone had high hopes. Some of the signings they had as well. Big contracts for Tino, and then who knows where Fafita is at the moment. Yeah, your assessment of the Titans and their hopes for next year, how they get fitter.
Yeah, was that last round where they just avoided the wooden spoon, which I'm supposed they'll be happy about. It's always, I suppose, good to finish on a high if you want to look at it that way. But yeah, you're right. They had the worst defense in the competitions. They were leaking nearly 30 points a game. They conceded more than 24 points in 16 of their games. So it's hard to win games if you're always
Yeah.
chasing the scoreboard a lot. So I think that's sort of where they went downhill. Their defense was just not good enough. Um, they've got on paper a better roster than second to last. So I'm trying to pinpoint why they can't succeed. But gee, yeah, just that defense. I'm just looking at some of the numbers that are coming through. The worst defense. That's where they languish down the bottom there.
Uh, eh, what is the story for Fafita? Talks of him maybe going to the Rabbits or having conversations.
Yeah.
You haven't seen
Well,
much about
he
that?
barely played, and it looked like they had Beau Fermor, who was preferred A
Yeah,
rim in that
yep,
left edge back row spot. So the writing's on the wall for him. They've paying him $1 million a year. That's too
yeah,
much to be playing
yeah.
in reserve grade.
Well, injured
So
in the New South Wales Cup, so he's not been bloody playing.
yeah, I think that they're if they can move that contract on, they'll be pretty happy with that. And it'll be quite exciting to see how he goes at the Rabbitohs because that's the strength of
Mm.
Wayne Bennett.
Yeah.
He can pull these guys and get the best out of them. So, we know the upside of Dave Fafita. He's got all the
Mm.
potential in the world. Maybe that change might be good for both the Titans and for him personally. And I
Well,
genuinely
yeah, for
believe that Wayne
Fafita.
Bennett can get him to work.
Yeah. Yeah. Anytime you kind of see a player suffering and you see them going to good coaches, like players going over to Bellum, you kind of are hopeful for the player. It's kind of their best opportunity. Um, the Dragons had a better roster. They had a lot of good buys, Gutho, Holmes kind of coming together, yet languishing in third from the bottom. I guess Flano keeps his job. I don't know, your assessment of Kyle, like he kind of came right. I don't know if that was credit to King Tongia that just kind of helped him steady the ship, but does he just need to tell his son it's not working?
Oh, I think so. I think so. Like, I'm just looking at the Dragons. They lost 10 games by 8 points or less, and they lost
Yeah.
3 by 1 point. So that was really the tail of their season and why they're languishing near the bottom. So when you compare them to like our team, the Warriors,
Mm.
who are in the top four for most of the season, and they made the playoffs, they just won a lot of close games. So it's
Yeah.
really fine margins, and the Dragons really didn't. So I know
Mm.
Kyle Flanagan, he copped a lot of grief this year, which you mentioned. And, he's potentially only getting picked because his dad's the coach. But, when you lose that many close games, it's really on the halves to try to close those games out. And he couldn't. And you think during that same period, their reserve grade side won 11 of 12 games and finished second on the ladder with Lockie Elias pulling the strings. So
Oh,
I felt they
yeah.
had an able replacement who wasn't given a fair shot. And that's sort of the thing sometimes where, someone's copying a lot of flack in the media, normally in the halves, but sometimes that's the best guy you got. I'm not sure that's the case with what Lockie Elias was doing in reserve grade. He should have at least got an opportunity because I think, they just, losing 10 games by 8 points or less, you
Yeah.
turn a couple of those into wins and then you're rocketing up the table. So, I thought that was a half
Yeah.
issue there.
Yeah, we'll probably touch on those other teams because I guess we haven't really gone into the draw because you kind of think a few seasons ago that was exactly where Canberra was. A really good team well, not really good, but, decent team on paper who were losing all these really close games, coming in like, the same kind of story. And so I don't know. Maybe we'll go back to that and have a look at some of the draw and kind of compare
Well,
it.
maybe there's something in that because you think about how Canberra have got their way out of it. They
Hmm.
invested heavily in young guys, so it's Ethan Strange and Kyo Weeks and all these youth that they're trying to bring through. But the Dragons have got a massive nursery of youngsters that they can call upon. Their
Hmm.
junior nursery is actually quite strong. So I wonder if investing in some of these young guys and bringing them through might be the way out. Because, you think if the Dragons go to the market, no one really wants to go there, so you've got to pay overs. You'd be
Yeah,
better off
yeah.
trying to go the Canberra route and go young and then give
Hmm.
them a couple of years to get up to
Bring them up.
speed, which
Hmm.
is probably where they're at now.
Nice. The Rabbitohs team, the beginning of the year, especially the roster, everyone, especially Wayne coming in, I think everyone had hopes. I think everyone probably penciled them into their eight, or had them in there. So obviously injuries, but yeah, outside of that, feel your thoughts.
Yeah, I think that's the key for this season. They just had a horror run of injuries. I
Mm.
mentioned, listened to your guys' pod this maybe 2-3 weeks ago, where Bob talked about how they couldn't even field a full team.
Yeah,
They had to name some injured guy as 18th man because they couldn't even get a roster going, which tells you where they were at injury wise. So I think that was a tale of their season. They got that halfback from England whose name escapes me now.
oh
And
yeah, Dodd.
Wayne Bennett didn't. Dodd,
Yeah,
yes.
never give him a
Wayne
chance.
Bennett
He
didn't
didn't,
really like him.
and
And
he's just
why they
straight up. He's
signed him
just
for.
saying some of these players, they kind of think they're ready for first grade when they're not. It's hard to tell. It's like, damn, that's pretty. Yeah, I guess. How else do you tell that someone? I know who hired you, mate, but you're not actually that guy.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, how do they make that signing without running it by the coach first? They made that signing,
Yeah. Well, I think that
and
was the
now they're
assumption
going to have to
last
work with
year,
it.
eh? Because it was before Wayne came in, and everyone just assumed surely Wayne's had no way that the new coach comes in, you pay that much money for the new guy who's going to lead your team, and the new coach doesn't know them. I think the assumption was Wayne wouldn't let that happen, but maybe it wasn't as, yeah.
Interesting how they look at their just that back three with Jai Gray was quite good.
Oh,
When
yeah,
playing
yeah.
fullback, he's quite energetic. I will say they picked up Ed Costi as well for next year from the Warriors.
Oh, yes.
So thanks for taking him off our hands. But no, I
Yeah.
think that's actually going to be a good signing because you think
Good
Latrell
for
doesn't do a lot
Kusi.
of work.
Mm.
And then
Um,
they've got that other winger who's a good finisher but doesn't do a lot of the dirty work. So hopefully, Ed Costi, if he gets some opportunities, at least he can carry strong in those early
yeah.
stints. So
Yeah, who were they with Monroe? Was Tyrone Monroe there?
yeah, I think so. He's not bad
Yeah.
actually, that Monroe.
Yeah. He's had a few yeah. I guess outside of the injuries, you have to get better with Wayne. Yeah, just a horror run. Yeah, that point about Jai, yeah. What do you think they do in the off season? They just going to really think about that and possibly look at Trowell becoming a centre, or you still think
He's on a
Trowell's best
lot of
position
money.
is a
He's on
one?
$1 million, which is a lot for a centre. That's even. I don't even think Crichton's getting that much. And you think he's probably the best centre in the game. I don't think Herbie's on that much. So they're paying him fullback money. That's where I think it might be a bit interesting.
Yeah.
But Jai Gray's proven he's too good to leave out. I don't know if he can make himself into a 14 or something like that. But I'd be trying to fit both of them on the side somehow.
Nice. The Tigers have dragged themselves from the spoon like that. I think that's been real impressive of them to not just get off the bottom and kind of stay away from the spoon, but actually, yeah, have a real chance, get themselves in conversation, and even maybe 4 or 5 weeks out, they're still trying to do the numbers as well. They're in the same boat as Manly and a few of the other teams, so a real tight comp. So for them to actually avoid getting close to the bottom is probably an achievement in itself. Yeah. Your thoughts, Luai, and all those guys joining?
Yeah, decent season. Like you said, when you consider they won 3 straight spoons prior to that. Anywhere above that they'll take it in a way. But yeah, just looking at some of the stats, they finished the season with the 3rd worst attack, which is quite interesting when you consider they've got guys like Luai,
Taruva, all
Taruva, and
those
Socky
finishers, Buller.
and stuff like that. So, but like I said, 3 straight spoons. I think they're just happy to get off the bottom. And to me, it feels like they're on the right trajectory at least. Just looking at some of their players in a fairly average season, I thought, Terrell May, he stood
Yeah, that
out.
was a huge signing, yeah.
Yeah, that was a great signing. So he was second for tackles made for the year and second for all runs and third for all run meters. So
Wow.
I know he was mentioned in Origin conversations was his tireless work through the middle. And just when you look at that spine as well, Api, Luai, Pula, these types of guys, they've got some real promising youngsters with Latu Fainu and
Yeah,
some
there's
other
Funny
dude that
Brothers.
scored a try, winger who's
Oh,
falling off through the
yeah.
year. And then you add on Terrell May setting that platform through the middle. Now, I'm at least optimistic for the Tigers in 2026 going forward. So I'll give them a pass. I actually think that's a decent season for them.
Nice. The Cowboys finishing in 12th, but probably highly disappointing for how I guess a lot of huge expectations in some of the games. It is probably, if you're a Cowboys fan, you would be frustrated when you can see what they can put on if they want to put it on.
Yeah, I'm just looking. They missed it. That's the 3rd time they've missed the playoffs in the last 5 years. Which, like you say, that's quite unusual considering, how they can play, how many Origin players they've got, and all the rest of it. But yeah, I'm looking at these numbers again. 2nd worst defense in the comp, and that's why they missed the playoffs. You just can't have that poor defense and make it. So I think also I'm looking at some of these numbers. You factor in they lost 8 out of 10 games from rounds 14 to 24. So there was this like a post-Origin collapse. So I think
Yeah,
that's sort of where it went wrong for them. But Tom Dearden, again, he's proven himself to be a real gun. So I think he was a standout player for them, as he was for Queensland and Origin. So he's one of the best players in the game at the moment.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's the thing. When you've got enough key guys and it just can't pull together to even make the 8. Because you look at that roster, some of those names, you put it head to head with the Warriors roster, we've done outstanding.
Exactly, man. Take 6th.
Or the Eels. I mentioned Mitch Moses. He is class. He's a real class player. But the rest of the team losing Dylan Brown. How did they go? Where'd they go wrong? And does it get better next year?
Yeah, I think we've talked about this a little bit, where you get these teams who are real one-man bands, and it feels like the Eels are that team. It'd be interesting to see what would have happened sort of in a parallel universe if Mitch Moses played the whole season.
Well, yeah.
Because I think that they probably would have made it into the top 8. He's that important and he's that good. But yeah, I'll give it some credit to the coach, Jason Rolls. His coaching career is on the line, but he just picked a whole lot of youngsters, of Isaiah Yongi and some of these young bucks, knowing that they'll be better 2026, 2027. So he's prepared to take some losses now and preparing for the future and getting rid of some of these older players and moving on some of the deadwood like Dylan Brown and all the rest of it. But yeah, I think, again, similar to the Tigers, I'm optimistic that they'll be moving up the table. So if we do this podcast in the next couple of years, we might be talking about the Eels in a completely different light. But so again, I'm going to give them a pass again. I didn't have high hopes for them per se, but yeah, I thought they did all right.
Nice. The Seagulls. Again, like I think the roster. I don't know if everyone kind of saw them going deep into the finals, but I think a few people may have had them in their 8. Yeah, I guess a lot of that, like they seem to, at the back of last year, they seem to learn how to win without Turbo, like just through the injuries, and it kind of seemed like they might be able to, with Lehigh there and Kohler, it seemed like they'd figured out how to get by, win games without Turbo, but just couldn't get it done to make the 8. Yeah, I don't know if that's probably a reflection of where the team sit 10th, but I don't know. Players like DCE, you'd expect more.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of speculation, and that's all we can do. How much impact that early call of the had on their season. It felt like that might have derailed them a little bit. But yeah, I'm with you. Might need Rog to come on and explain his team. He can get into his monologue. But yeah, real mixed bag from Manly this year. They were incredibly inconsistent. So just looking at their form sort of since round 14, right? They lost 2 in a row, then won 3 in a row, then they lost 4 in a row, and then they won their last 3 games in a row. So, when you consider they only finished, 2 points outside the top 8? Those inconsistencies, they proved quite costly. Now, on a positive note, you sort of touched on this a little bit, but that centre they got there, Kohler, man, he was awesome. So I think that was his best ever season. Just looking at some of his numbers, so 7th overall for tries scored, 13th for line breaks, 25th for tackle breaks. And when you consider he missed a few games through injury, it's a pretty good effort for him and a team that's outside the top 8. So Kohler, yeah, well done.
And you're happy, Turbo? You see him long term moving back into the number 1, or similar to Lehigh and Jai Gray? Is it some same kind of thing? Just
it's a very interesting one. I actually see him making the change. I think Hopewadi Lehigh is actually quite good. His defense is solid. His carries are strong for a smaller, slim looking dude.
Yeah.
And I'm not convinced that on the flip side of that, I'm not convinced how much Turbo's body can hold up to the rigors of playing fullback week in, week out. I think if they can get him to play 23 games a season,
At
they're in the top
fullback
eight
and,
easy.
and
And the
interchange,
only
yeah.
way you can get him up there is to sort of limit his off the ball running through playing fullback, I reckon. So
Hmm.
yeah, I'd seriously consider moving him to the centres permanently.
Ooh, nice. All right. Rounding up the teams that missed the eight. The Dolphins, probably one that people at least mid-season or even near the back end really thought would make the eight. Just with the form and especially Katoa, he's been awesome this season. Yeah, I think the blow to Herbie was huge for them too.
Yeah, I think all in all, I thought that was a pretty good season from the Dolphins. I'm just looking now; they were 14th in round 11, and they'd notched up 7 losses already. So they proceeded to win 8 of their last 13 games to finish just outside the playoffs. But that poor start to the season, I think that's what really cost them.
Mm.
They ended up finishing with the best attack all year. They averaged over 30 points a game, but just some of those defensive frailties really let them down and ultimately cost them their season as well. But to me, just looking at the team, all the pieces, they're all there, eh? So if they
Mm.
can get some better luck with injuries, particularly in the forwards, to get a bit more of that defensive resilience I was speaking about, I think they could probably make the playoffs next year. But yeah, just looking back at my preseason predictions, I had them just missing the top 8. So I think a ninth place finish was sort of on par with where I thought they'd be at. So talking about their attack, you talked about it a bit earlier, but young Isaiah Katoa, man, he was a
Yeah,
beast. So second for try assists, sixth for line break assists. He's still only 21, so definitely a superstar there. And if they can keep him long term, he's one of those guys, like if you've got Cleary, you're always going to be in the playoffs. When Andrew Johns was there, you're always going to be in the playoffs position. So I put him as a young bloke. I think he could be in that conversation.
yeah,
So they got to do everything they can to keep him.
yeah. I think he's such a talent. Coming out of that Panthers system, and so yeah, the Dolphins should be looking to wrap him up long term, especially with the threat of the new clubs coming in, exemptions around. He could be a real marquee player. Like I know the Dolphins got him, and he wasn't really well known, but man, getting him now, I think he'd demand quite a lot. And just his potential, like you're saying, like he's such a young player, and his ceiling is probably quite high. Like I know, early on, Matty Johns and Cooper Cronk were rapping him just his style of play and just saying like the way he's playing, the way he thinks is real mature, like stuff that players don't do till later in their career, and like it's exactly like they were predicting, just saying like what he can do now is like they even for players like that to be shocked at his talent is just proves how far he could go. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what the Dolphins can do going forward. Shot, bro. Nice little wrap there of the Kayakele bottom 8. Let's get into the real deal. The
So hold
previews.
on. Is there any? Let's ask you a quick question. Is there any? Which team do you
Yeah,
think is
bro.
going to make the biggest move for next year out of
Oh,
all
out
the
of
teams?
these.
One team normally.
uh yeah, I think the probably the most shocking would be the Tigers. I think the Rabbits, like with the injuries, I think they'll make moves, and everyone probably expects them to if they're healthy. But I think, like you're saying, with the way the Tigers set up, just some of those players, especially with the off season together, I think they pick up Taylor May. They could become real well rounded. At least they've had a season together with Luai, figure out kind of the things that didn't go right. That whole Lockheed stuff mid season was a bit of a thing for them. So I think the Tigers with a really good off season, I see them making the eight. I see them heading into the eight, which is a huge move for them to go 2 seasons in and coming playoffs. So that'll be my movers. How about yourself?
Yeah, that's a good shout. Actually, I quite like that call. I was going to agree with the Tigers. I'll give a shout out to the Knights. I'm surprised they finished last. But I quite like Dylan Brown. I've heard a lot of naysayers sort of rubbishing that Dylan Brown signing, and I think some on the pod have really liked it, but I'm quite optimistic that it's going to work. So he's obviously a running half, and the reason why I think it's going to work is because he runs the ball a lot. He's a running half, but so there's those question marks around his organizational skills. We've seen other teams use these running halves with some success. So the two teams that come to mind straight away are us, the Warriors, and obviously the Melbourne Storm. So the Warriors were using Metcalf and Chanel, two running halves and not great organisers there. But they were well entrenched in the top four, just with these two running around before Metcalf suffered his injury. And think about the Storm. They've been second, they're premiership favourites with two running halves in Hughes and Munster. So I think it's going to work well for the Knights. But both those teams, the Warriors and the Knights, and the Warriors and the Storm, they do have that one thing in common, which is they've got this ball playing and organiser at 9. So both Harry Grant and Wade Egan do a lot of the organisation and directing of the forwards from hooker. And then that frees up the halves to become ball runners. So the restructuring of the spine, I think, at Newcastle is going to work for that reason. They've got Dylan Brown, they've got Fletcher Sharp, both outstanding running halves. If they can get an organiser at hooker, then it will work. So they got rid of Jaden Brayley. He's been released at the end of the year, and that's the correct call. He's a legitimate first grader, but he's just a good defender and a good distributor, and that's not what the Knights need. So if this is going to work, the crucial guy in all of it's going to be actually Phoenix Crossland. So there have been a lot of games where Crossland's played 7. You talked about the merry-go-round in the halves earlier when we did the Knights. But, the head guys like Hastings and Colgate, and they still went to Crossland. And the reason they did that is because he's got those organisational qualities. So if he can do that from 9 and direct the team from there, much like Harry Grant does and Wade Egan does for their teams, that will allow Dylan Brown to play to his strengths, which is running the football and not being bogged down with, directing the team around.
Trying to organise,
So I think it's going to work. I think the Knights are going to move massively up the table. And I'm going to go early. I took off our Phoenix Crossland. I'm going to pick him for Dalian Hooker of the year next year, just with the newly restructured spine. He's going to have a
year out.
What happens? The early call, the Bears is kicked in early in the pod.
Nice. Phoenix Crossland, Dalian Hooker. Oish. I like it. Okay. Well, expect big things. The Knights, every Knights fan, James Forever, if you're listening, you'll be happy with that. At least you got something to be happy about this year. Nice. Also, all right, let's head into the week 1 preliminary and elimination finals. Let's all go. We are down, and the top 8's been decided. And we kick off tomorrow night. Kicking off with 2nd and 3rd, the Storm taking on the Doggies. Huge ins here, but a massive out from last week with Jerome. Broken wrists, taking him out of the season. And they're bringing in Wishart. So, your thoughts? Bronson Cherry's probably a big out for the Doggies as well. Oh, Pap's out as well. What happened to Paps? Oh,
I'm not sure. But these teams are struggling, limping into the finals, even though they're both 2 top 4 teams. It's quite a hard pick. You talked about some of the outs. So Carraz is out, Cherry's out, someone else is out, Marcelo Montoya. So they've got some outside issues. I would have been tempted to move Matt Burden into the centres and then recall Sexton into the halves, but that's, I don't know if bloody Serraldo is going to make that change after he's made those drops. But,
exactly.
They've got some real outside back issues there at the Bulldogs. And looking at the Storm, I didn't realise how much else they've got as well. So Nick Meaney, fullback, Joe Chan playing centre, Tyron Wishart starting. I'd be surprised if the teams that run out is in that order. I wonder if Pezzett at 14 gets a start in the halves, and maybe Munster at fullback or Wishart back to the bench, one of those types of things. And also Joe Chan at centre, I'm not convinced about as well. They've got Jack Howarth in the the long listed reserves. So I wonder if he might get a call in there. I think that there's going to be some late chopping and changing
Changes.
from both of those
Yeah.
teams potentially. So real interested to see it how it unfolds. I'm picking the Storm at just because they're at home, and the Bulldogs have really struggled. So they had that early great season start, which held them in the top four, but it felt like those mid-season changes that we talked about in previous pods with, changing the halfback, changing the hooker, making these spine changes mid-season, it still hasn't really clicked, and that sort of cost them a little bit in their back end. So I'm just going to go the Storm on faith. Storm in a close one. How
Oh,
you seeing it?
is it a Munster status for the Storm?
What's that?
Is it a Munster-led Storm team that you reckon that it gets him over?
Yeah, I think so. I like their outside backs as well. So Will Warbrick and Xavier Coates, they're just dynamic in the air, quite hard to contain. So we saw, I think last week we were not doing any reviews, but if you think about that Broncos game, they were just happy to give away penalties against Coates and just
Yeah,
tackle him
yeah,
in the
yeah,
air or
exactly.
just throw him off, just escort him off the ball or whatever. And that's a real danger. Those crossfield kicks because they've got two high flyers there. So
Mm.
how Blake Wilson and Jethro cope with that could go a long way to deciding it. But I think Munster, he has to have a good game, particularly with Hughes out,
Yeah,
because I think that they're going to pressure him and say, Wishart, what are you going to do? Can you win it for us? If the Bulldogs pressure Munster and then it's on Wishart, I think I'm not sure that'll work. They haven't got Pappenhausen there who could be that backup playmaker either. So it really has to be Munster and probably Harry Grant who get them across the line. But that finals experience, I think, is going to get them across.
yeah. I think that's the only. I think the Dogs have. Yeah, again, I struggle with the if it's not broke um, changes they made with Sexton like that for no reason. Like I can see maybe Serraldo just with experience. Like it looked like OK's a lot of the teams with injuries and stuff. It probably makes sense to try and, but I don't know. It just felt disruptive and like you're saying, it's hard. Like a coach when you put all your eggs in this call. It's a real brave ballsy call that he just did this mid-season when they're going good guns and to just pull it. And I guess the doggies just had to get behind him. A lot of the fans. So, yeah, a huge one like that. Yeah, that support coming out from doggies has been huge this season. Them supporting them. Um, and again, I think the dogs get two bites of the cherry. So, Storm at home, I agree. I think they'll be too good. And maybe the dogs will probably just be happy with the fact that they get a second bite. They get a home final for the second chance. If they lose this, they host
Yeah,
the winner of
yeah,
the
they'll
elimination.
host the winner
Whoever
of
wins
the
elimination
Warriors
finals. Oh, okay,
Warriors Panthers game. So,
nice.
hmm.
Well, speaking of that game, we'll head straight into it because that's the Saturday night game. The Warriors and the Panthers played over here. Those prelim ticket codes didn't even work. Did you manage to pick up some tickets? I was trying to use those unlock codes eats.
Bro, nah. I got in like 15 minutes before, and I was in the wait queue. But by the time I got there, I couldn't find any good seats
Seats
for the
together.
value at the price I wanted to pay as well. It was quite expensive, and it was either too far back, and I didn't think it was worth the price, or not in a good spot. So we ended up missing out, which is unfortunate. But are you gonna? Did you get any tickets?
Nah. And we got a game on Saturday as well, so boys will probably just watch it at the club rooms.
Yep.
We've got Mount Albert. Um, but at home, bro, your thoughts, your breakdown on this. This is probably the first time I think they mentioned like since COVID, but it wasn't the full Panthers, so this is the actual first time a lot of these guys come over. Um, Yeah, since that COVID period. Before that,
Yeah, it's going to be tough, eh? You think the Panthers, their history, 4-time champs, they're going to be tough to beat in the playoffs. They're obviously finishing seventh. They're going to have to do it the hard way. And we've limped into the finals, we have to be honest. I think we've lost 5 of our last 7 games. I think that was a stat that I heard. And it's just hard. I think the loss of Rocco Berry is actually huge. So I remember I jumped on a couple of times and just listening to you guys in general, talking about the Warriors games. But just the last sort of couple of months, that right edge defense has been shaky as.
yeah,
Dallin's been caught in no man's land a few times. At least with Rocco there, he's the best defensive centre we got. And it
yeah,
feels like Dallin trusts him. So if Rocco's next to him, he'll at least stay out on his
yeah.
man. Otherwise, he's rushing in, and whoever else
Well, yeah,
is
he's
next to him
always
is
saving
rushing in.
Capewell. He always has to come in, so that's the
He
problem.
doesn't trust Capewell's speed, I think. I think he's
Yeah,
worried Capewell's going to get burned.
Burnt, and so
So
he
he
tries to
comes in
come
a
back
bit.
and yeah,
Yeah, and that's going to be a problem because, looking at what happened last week, that left edge of Penrith really had a field day last week. So Casey McLean playing left centre had a good game. And they got a couple of tries and some breaks down that side. And that's my concern with the Warriors is that right edge defence
and
has
yeah,
been paper thin the last month or so. But the Warriors at home, always tough to beat, and you got to have a little bit of faith. So, what are your thoughts on the game? I don't know if I can make my prediction yet. Give me something
um.
positive or negative.
Oh, I think I've seen some positive headlines. I saw fireworks, burnouts, parties outside the Pullman Hotel. Warriors fans get behind it. Yeah. So I think it is. Yeah, it'll be real interesting what the message is from Webster to these guys. I think that's been the journey for the Warriors for a long period. Is just this whole inner talk, like belief in themselves and getting them through. Um, but it was interesting hearing Fisher Harris's response in the presser last week. Just coming with that real, um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they feed off that. Just angry that no one believes in them. No one's taking, no one's even giving them the time of day. And I mentioned it too to Sai, on one of the pods, and I guess it's true. Like it's hard when it's like, but the stats don't really like. There's a lot of passion and a lot of heart. Like, yeah, no one's taking you serious because you haven't got serious stats to back the belief. And I think that's the hard thing. So for Fish to come out, I guess that's why we love sports. You can have all the stats in the world. You can play money ball, but it comes down to the team on the day and just those emotions. And I guess those are the things that, as a Warriors fan, you hold on to those, throw the stats out the window and hope that the emotion gets them over. But I really wonder what, yeah, I guess the Panthers, like even that conversation, what gets these guys up? Like, how do you go back to back and then get 3 and then hit 4? What's the drive now? So I guess these guys, the internal Panthers, whatever they have going to keep getting them up and to go, look, let's make history again. Like, okay, it hasn't been done, so let's do this thing again. Even for them, people just think, yep, even if they beat the Warriors, they're not going all the way. If they beat us, I want them. Of course I want. If they beat us, I'm going to say they're the best team in the comp, and I want them to win the whole thing now. Because, the way this team's going and how they've managed it, like Ivan, like, as much as you love them or hate them, player for player, outside of maybe Roger, Wade Egan, like this is even some of these guys, only a few years ago, Casey McLean, like to try and step into, Critter's boots, and he's been outstanding this season for the Panthers. So they've got something really, internal that they do well there. Hoping Webster brings some of that across. So yeah, as a fan, as a Warriors, you have to back them. And just the passion of the Warriors fans, hopefully it's enough to put these guys off. See you guys there early at the Pullman. Just turn up. We'll go welcome the Panthers as they arrive.
Yeah. I just saw they got you mentioned it, like the hooker there.
Yeah, Kenny's out. I don't know what happened to Mitch Kenny, so that's
actually a big loss. He doesn't get a lot of the reps. He just does his job really well, but he's actually a crucial guy in that team. So that's a big loss. And I've just noticed now Thomas Jenkins, who's been their wing for
pretty sad for him, poor dude.
He's out as well.
Yeah.
I don't know what he did wrong.
But I think it's just a selection. Yeah, they've just dropped him cold because Alamoti's been around and Tall's back now. But yeah, he's been real awesome there filling in. So and even Dane Laurie. So yeah, just seeing these guys doing you can't have everyone, but I guess the guys have been doing it, when everyone's been injured, to let them have these rests. I guess that's part of the Panthers mentality too. That's what makes them so great.
Yep. It's going to be a good game. I think the loss of that hooker there is actually quite crucial. Mitch Kenny, I think he's one of those sort of glue guys that brings a lot of the stuff together, and he's not the flashy guy, but he's a crucial part. So hooker touches the ball the most. I'm really reaching for stuff to be positive about the Warriors.
They haven't done enough homework on Tanner Boyd. Yeah, I think Tanner Boyd might shock everyone. So it's going to be his one game for us. Everyone's going to be like, that's the game. That's why we bought him in.
Yeah. Warriors at home as well. I think that we're going to be the team that ends that dynasty. It's going to be close, but I think that Mitch Kenny is a massive loss. And if they can get that right edge defense to hold, don't even be spectacular, just hold. I think that they might get a win there. I'm interested to see, because I'm not sure about Boyd. That he's been a bit 50-50. They got Te Maire Martin there at 14. I wonder if they might do some changes.
You're going to do audible and bring Healy in and drop Tana.
Yeah, I'd be looking at bringing Tim Whitey in potentially at halfback. But you don't want to tinkle with the side too much. I'm really just concerned that right edge, if that holds us, we'll win. If it buckles, we could get smoked. But I'm going to go the Warriors on faith. We'll go Warriors in a close one. Warriors by 6 in that one.
Nice. All right, moving on to the third game, the second Saturday game, Sharks and the Roosters. Like you said, the Roosters, awesome to make it this far and what they're building. But not new ground to Trent Robinson. So kind of like what Webby said, like it's a new comp now. And man, Robinson will be licking his lips. The fact that he's here and has a chance to he's still got Teddy. Like some of these champs are the same guys that know how to do it. So this is going to be a good one. The Sharkies looking good at the right time. Nico, we didn't mention that, but just the precedence on that whole allowing him to. So the Master Review gave him a grade 2, and then they weren't happy about the grade 2, and so they apparently you can get further evidence. So instead of challenging it, they went back to the doggies and asked their medical staff to provide results for Montoya. And so the results came back initially because the Chargers were saying it's season ending, realizing, it's actually not as bad. It's probably going to be a grade 2 or grade 1. So they lowered the thing, and now he's allowed to play. I guess it's just the precedence of, so if you can prove before to the match review committee, hey, this guy's actually not as bad as you thought, your player gets to play. But it's Marcelo Montoya. He still misses probably a week or 2 weeks. Does the same happen if that's Nathan Cleary?
And if he misses 2 weeks, they lose this week and then they lose next week. That is season ending.
Yeah. But I mean, even if Nico Hines did the same accident and they could show evidence that, it's Nathan Cleary, it's not season ending, I don't think they turn a blind eye. But I think that's just sad to Montoya, if anything. I was only for selling Montoya. It's not that bad. You can play. So, yeah, that's just a bit of a side. But I was thinking, that's a bit of rubbish. This guy gets to play. I'd be gutted if I was a Roosters fan.
Yeah, I agree. But he's a crucial cog in their team as well. So if he wasn't there, this would be an easier game for me to pick. I
Yeah.
think this is going to be the match of the round, actually. It's quite hard to pick two teams who have been in good form. The Sharks, they're not getting that much love, really, from the pundits about who's going to
Yeah,
be
hey,
the.
it's pretty, yeah. The Canberra and Broncos lovers. I'm
Yeah.
surprised the Sharks are not getting, yeah.
But they've been pretty solid, particularly in the back end of the season to push into fifth. So
Like, Nico's
I
not
guess
setting the world on light, but the Sharks as a team are doing, like, that whole Braden Trindle combination is still working. And I think because he's not a standout seven, they don't really, I don't know. Maybe they're just Sharks haters.
maybe I can see they've got Britton Nikora on the extended reserves as well. I think he's going to come in there some way because he's a gun, and
Mm-hmm.
his whole running on that right side with Nico, that's one of their crucial cogs in their attack. So if he can come in, it's going to be close. I think Disco's had an outstanding season. I think he'll probably
Yeah.
win Dalian Player of the Year. So that battle in that back five there, there's some guns across the park there. Some real good matchups. I'm flipping a coin here, but I'm going to take the Roosters. I think their form has been a bit stronger. I think the eighth place team doesn't have a great record in the first week of the playoffs, but I think they're going to buck that trend. I'm going to pick the Roosters to win. A close one there.
Oh, you're right. Like, this matchup is a real. It's going to be a real good game, I think, and exciting. Both teams have a real nice, exciting style of play as well. So I don't know if there'll be many points because they're pretty good on D as well. But it could open up. So yeah, this is probably going to be a real exciting game. I'm Man, that roster of the Roosters. I don't know how they had this team the whole year. um, I wanna go Roosters. I feel sorry for the Sharks though; they aren't getting the love. And Fanua Blake was beast last week, so
Hmm.
I'm gonna pick Fanua to lead those forwards and the Sharks into a typical Craig's Fitzgibbon win. So I'm gonna go Sharkies. In a tough one. I think the Roosters will want to finesse it, but I think the Sharkies going to bring a tough game. So I'll go Sharks. That should be good. All right. Wrapping it up. First week of the finals, Raiders get their way. Seems like Ricky has a bit of sway, eh? Like I went back and looked at this Raiders draw. As much as it's a decent team and they've done awesome and been probably the most consistent team, they had a pretty okay draw, like similar to the Warriors. Quite favorable. Like you look like Dragons 3 times, Titans a couple of times. So yeah, I think Ricky in that beginning of season review had a big cry. So many, like he didn't have to once challenge the referee's decisions or bunker. He had no conversations that were awkward in any presser. So I think everyone's just sick of putting up with Ricky, and they've given him his way and said, "Show us if you can actually win this thing without having a sip." Um, so yeah, I think they've had a dream run. And these young guys have stood up. Like Joseph Tapine, he's been the man. Like as a captain and a player. Um, it's so good that he's annoyed me this season too, just some of the stuff he's done. So I think he's really grown as a leader this season as well. Looking forward to seeing him as a Kiwi at the end of the season. Hopefully he stays injury free because yeah, I think he's going to be a real beast for us in the season. So I I'll come to you because this is a hard one. I haven't even touched on the Broncos. That was probably their best game all season, like the game that everyone's been waiting for them to, or maybe just Reece Walsh at least to kind of steady things. But overall too, like just their defense, like they seem to kind of pull that in a bit. Um, I'm I think they played their final last week though. So I think they'll lose this one, and then we'll see how they go next week. But I think it's going to be Raiders in this one on Sunday.
Nice. Yeah, this is a tough one. Real good matchups across the park. So you think about now looking at the Bronx and their strength, they've got Haas, Jensen, and Carrigan as the middles. But then you look at the Raiders, who you've mentioned, Papali'i, Tapani, and Horsburgh. That just evens itself out there. The halves, Fogarty's a seasoned professional, Ben Hunt's a seasoned professional on the other side, so pretty even there. Some of these outside backs could end up being the deciding factors. If Tony Staggs gets his game going, or Timoko, can do some damage there. Kai Weeks. So really good matchups across the park. Pretty evenly matched. They play a very similar style as well. Good to see Shibasaki back after his
you'll get on it again, depending how they go.
Yeah, this is going to be another good game, and I think it's going to be a high quality game, just given the styles.
Yeah, nice style.
Play. I think the Raiders have been the best team all year, and they are at home. So I'm just going to give it to them on that factor, not because I think they're a better team per se. To me, these are the two best teams in the finals. I'm going to say just because Melbourne have dropped down a bit after back-to-back bad losses. So depending on how the game plays out, this could be a grand final preview. But I'm going to go the Raiders at home. That week off next week could be crucial for them. So to me, they're the team to beat.
Well, Raiders it is. Nice, bro. That is gonna be a lot of good finals. Yeah, disappointing I couldn't get along to the game this week. Still got your finals tickets, bro? Or you got your air flights at least?
Yeah, I put those flights in the chat, $210, and I'm like, yep, I'm just going to pay it. So
either way, if you can get along, it'll be any of these games.
Yeah, but I don't want to pay it if it's not going to be the Warriors. So me and my wife have been talking about it. We're half thinking we might end up just flagging it and writing that $200 off. $210 off is a loss, but depends how the playoffs go. And that's why I'm really backing the Warriors as well, because I really want to at least have that opportunity to go again.
Nice, bro. All right. Well, I guess we'll be coming back next week, or not, depending on the results. This might be the last episode of the 135 Footy Show for this year.
I know that the All Blacks kick off an hour later, so depending on how the game's going, we might just have to switch it over at halftime.
It's just all rugby next week. Nice, awesome. Thanks for jumping on, bro. Any last words?
No, not really. Just good to have that deep dive into the teams that missed the finals this year. And I was just looking at it. So one of the things that we've seen, every team outside the top 8, they've got their sort of their own story. But there were teams that had some crucial moments where they just missed out. So we talked about Manly and the Dolphins, and then you got those middle of the pack teams, Cowboys, Dragons, and Eels, who struggled with that consistency, and then the bottom teams who were really, they've got a lot to work on, some rebuilds ahead. But I think the lesson across those teams is quite clear. Just the small margins can make a big difference in a competition like the NRL, which is quite close. Having those poor patches of form, those defensive issues or whatever, off-field distractions, whatever it is, that can potentially derail the entire season. So now what we're seeing is just that separation between the contenders and the pretenders, and so it's good to do these types of reviews. And I know a lot of their fans listen to the podcast, so they'll look forward towards 2026 with a bit of hope, because like you talked about the Raiders and all the rest of it, history shows you can turn it around quite quickly if you get that formula right. And that's what makes, rugby league really compelling, and the NRL a great watch. So, there's those fresh chances and fresh challenges and for those people celebrating their Mad Monday. So, keep the faith for those teams out there who are just watching the finals as spectators, which could be us next week as well.
Well, and that's the beauty of the sport, like the fact that like everything, pretty much half a year goes into this, and now half of everyone Like all that effort, and you don't get much. You don't get, you have to go party and then watch. So I'm glad we're here in this conversation, for this part of it at least. Usually we're on the sidelines talking about everyone else.
If you think it to the start of the season, like I don't know how many people had the Warriors even in the top 8.
Yeah.
So, I was watching, sort of going off on a bit of a tangent now, but I watched on Sky Sport and the build up to the Warriors game, they show those classic matches. I'm not sure if you caught any of those. Just whoever the Warriors are playing that week, they'll play sort of like an old school game between those two sides. I watched this one from the Warriors playing the Dragons, and they only went back 2 years. They showed the 2023 game.
Yeah.
And it was Adam Fanor-Blake just running through the middle. It was Tohu Harris ball playing through the middle.
Wow.
He set up some tries. Sean Johnson carving up on the right side. They had Dylan Walker come off the bench. He set up 2 or 3 tries. Marcelo Montoya got a hat trick. Now, all those crucial guys that got us to the top 4 only 2 years ago, they're all gone.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're really in the middle of a rebuild, which is why a lot of people didn't pick us for the top 8. So for us to finish 6th, I know you can be sort of a glass half empty about it, considering we're on the top 4 for 3/4 of the season. But if you look at it in that context, you're right. I'm pretty happy that we're here. I would have taken 6 at the start of the year. If you told me we got 6, I'll say, yep, done deal. I'll take it.
Like 6 is good. It's not 8. 6, we're still there. Nice. Also, thank you. Looking forward to tuning into the Counter Ruck next week. Hopefully, we catch a review of those couple of All Black games that are past. We picked up the win. This should be a crucial one down in Wellington. Like you said, it overlaps. So, yep, I'll jump on and have a listen to that. But thank you for joining me, Us. Nice pod.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, Us. Thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you guys next week. Later.